on today's session. And I'm really grateful for every single one of you guys again for being on today's call. But let me know in the chat box where are you tuning in from what part of the US. I know we have a lot of different people here within Powerhouse, and if you got invited to this call, we're welcome as well. But these are calls that we'll be able to dive into a lot of different things. Myself and John Luke are kind of gonna go into the beginning when it comes to the news, what's going on, what we've seen, and then go into a little bit more of the charts. And there's a couple exciting things that have happened that I know a lot of people in Powerhouse are really excited about for some of these cryptos that a lot of people have been talking about are starting to see moves, but also having an understanding of maybe what's to come. So I'm gonna bring up my boy John Luke. As you guys know, we've been doing these calls for a very long time, and he has a lot of passion and desire for this market. He sees a lot of different perspectives as well. And that's something I really enjoy when it comes to sessions like this, and an individual that's always willing to pour into the group. So with saying that, John Luke, bro, I'll let you come up and go within what's going on in crypto and the news and stuff.
What's going on, guys? What's going on? Happy to be here. I was away last week in Chicago. Gil was running it, which is great. We always keep the torch flaming, regardless where one of us is. And yeah, it's been an exciting week. Lots of news and things to dive into. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start off with that. So let me go over here. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Cool. So yeah, this is our crypto and assets call, as you guys know. Every Saturday we've been running it. Shout out to the regulars as well. Many of you have been hopping on weekly for months now. And then also there's one or two newer people on the call. So appreciate you guys joining. So to begin with, yeah, this is the longest government shutdown in history now, because we crossed the 35-day mark, which was the last shutdown, 2018 to 2019, I believe. And that's a big deal. What does government shutdown even mean? For those of you who may not know, it simply is where Congress can't agree on what to spend on and how much to spend on. And so they're in this limbo period of, well, we can't actually function with non-essential services until we know where this money is going and why. And Trump, as the president, did not sign the bill that needed to be signed in order for that to continue. And so with the shutdown, there's many ways you can kind of go about it. Number one is, how does it affect the market? Well, think of it like the longer the government shut down, the bigger the spring. So if you think of like a slingshot, the further you pull back the slingshot, the further the rock like flies out of the slingshot. And so the longer the government shutdown happens, it's like you're pulling back on that slingshot more and more and more, where in my eyes, the markets will catapult once things start to reopen. And so there's not been much data for you guys who use Forex Factory looking at the red, amber, green folders in terms of the news, right? There's not been much data out there because of the shutdown. And that's because 750,000 employees have been furloughed, like they're not working. However, within 7 days of the government reopening, those data, those numbers and metrics are going to come out again. So let's say we're going to reopen a week from today. Well, that would mean from today, we would start seeing all of the data coming out, which was basically backlogged from the government being shut down. And the biggest metric in my eyes, when it comes to like interest rates and the FOMC that's going to happen in December, is really unemployment. So that's like the main number that we're really looking forward to seeing come out. And on the previous call, you guys heard me speak about the history of previous government shutdowns and what happened to the S&P 500 afterwards, what happened to Bitcoin afterwards. It's pretty crazy because I remember mentioning to you guys the S&P rose 25+% in 15 months when the government reopened from their shutdown. Bitcoin went from 3,000 to 68,000 when the government reopened from the last shutdown. So I'm not saying that's going to happen here. There's more institutional capital in the markets, but I'm definitely anticipating a more bullish 2026 because of that's one of the reasons, as well as many other reasons out there. The next thing in the news here was Charles Schwab is to launch a crypto trading capabilities in 2026. And this is also good news, positive news. And the reason why is because this is allowing more retail traders to get involved in the market. This is allowing more high net worth people to trade crypto, but using a centralized exchange. And that's good, not necessarily for ownership, but it's good because of accessibility. And remember, old wealth or people with large sums of money for a long period of time, they don't want to take those risks of, I'm going to do this on some side platform, that isn't centralized. They want to work through the Charles Schwabs, the Robin Hoods, the Fidelities. And funnily enough, this is just like business principles. Fidelity and Robinhood already have the crypto trading capabilities. So Charles Schwab is just following in their footsteps. And really, the earlier these companies offer the services, well, the faster adoption happens and the more they capitalize in an untouched market. And that kind of touches on like regulation, right? Because the more regulatory procedures like the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, you guys have heard of these acts, right, for stablecoins, the more it allows these companies to offer these services without having the fear or concern of, we're going to get sued like the SEC did to Ripple. We're going to get sued like what they did to Coinbase because we're offering services that are not legal that we can do. So that's something to keep in mind that I thought was quite interesting. Now, the third bit of news here is that the US government is now among the top 10 global crypto holders. And we had a call about 2 months ago about how does the government accumulate Bitcoin? How do they accumulate crypto? And there's 2 or 3 different ways that the governments accumulate crypto. They won't tell you explicitly, hey, I'm invested in crypto. I've got Bitcoin. We're buying it as a government. No. But what they would do is they're going to do a couple of different things. One of the ways that they do it is through confiscating or seizing crypto from illegal activities. So, let's say somebody spent $2 million worth of Bitcoin to buy, I don't know, like Class A drugs. They will seize that $2 million worth of Bitcoin, keep it in their own balance sheet and accounts, and then benefit from the appreciation of Bitcoin. But it won't tell you that they're doing that, but that's one of the ways. So they seize it from criminals, right? And like, what is a criminal? How do we define that? But that's another conversation. Another way that the government accumulates Bitcoin and crypto is from OTC exchanges. And so they may do that in the back end. What does that mean? That means that it's on chain, but it's not something that pops up on the exchange that people can see immediately because they're buying in bulk. And when you're buying in bulk, you don't do it through the Krakens and the Coinbase. You do it through an OTC desk so that you can get a discount on your crypto. And that's also key to understand. And there's another way that governments accumulate Bitcoin or state that they're holding it, and that's through strategic reserves. Now, many of you have heard of what a strategic reserve is. It's basically this pot of money that each state holds, like Texas, Arkansas, Ohio, whatever it is, or each country may hold, where in an unpredictable, like one-off event that they haven't accounted for, they can tap into this reserve pot of money, pool of funds, to use it to like rebuild infrastructure if there's a massive tsunami or something or hurricane. That's the whole point of the strategic reserve. And a couple of states in America already have those for Bitcoin, which is great. And they typically have like 10% of their funds in that strategic reserve, just in case of an event which they can't anticipate. So those are the various ways that governments hold Bitcoin, which is quite interesting. And so with the US government, supposedly, this is the supposed numbers, that they have $35 billion worth of assets in cryptocurrency. And funnily enough, when you go to CoinGecko and you look at the top holders of Bitcoin and crypto, you're going to find that US government is close to the Coinbases, to the Binances, like close to the actual exchanges themselves, which just shows you the mass of Bitcoin that they have. Now, this information I'm telling you, I think it's really useful, especially if you're like beginner to intermediate, because if you're hesitant about putting more funds into crypto, whether it's the layer ones like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solanas, or if it's the layer twos that sit underneath that, or if you're more risky and you're going for the layer threes, which are more, higher potential ROI, but like higher risk and more volatility as well. At least you have the comfort to know that, where big money moves, big money flows. That's what people follow. And so if the big money is going into pot A, it's good to know that as a little guy, you're also putting it into pot A. And that's key to understand. The last thing here is stablecoins could push interest rates lower. And this was what the Federal Reserve's governor mentioned. And so I was kind of thinking to myself, like, what's the relationship between stablecoins and interest rates? Why did he say that? Right. And I was kind of going in this rabbit hole a little bit. And so one of the things to understand is that if stablecoins become more adopted, such as DAI, such as USDC, such as USDT run by Tether, such as BUSD, which is Binance's stablecoin, such as PayPal. PayPal have their own stablecoin. What does that do? Well, number one, with the stablecoin regulatory framework, which is now out there, more and more companies are going to create their own stablecoin. That's great. It's pegged 1-to-1 with the dollar. It's a safe haven for your funds. But what's some of the risks that you have to look out for in terms of where you put your money in stable, like which stable coins you go into? Because that's a big decision. If you put your funds into the wrong type of stable coin, meaning one that has low liquidity or one that doesn't have things in reserve, that stable coin can be pegged 1-to-1 with the dollar. And in a bear market where Bitcoin goes from 100 and let's say 100,000 and it drops to $70,000, well, the question you need to ask yourself is my stablecoin liquid enough and strong enough to still be pegged 1-to-1 with the dollar? Because if it breaks that pegging, your $10,000 in that stablecoin can then start dropping to 9,000, 8,000, 7,000. When you thought it was safe with that stablecoin, you realize that it's not because of the volatility. So where am I going with this? So when deciding your stablecoin, consider how liquid is it, which means how much money can be bought and sold in a short span of time. If there's low liquidity, your sell order for your stablecoin will not be able to be matched with a buy order, which means you're going to be stuck. And the funds, you can't sell it because every buy needs to be matched with a sell. Every sell needs to be matched with a buy. And you guys know this from trading. So you need a stablecoin with good liquidity, high liquidity. Number two, you need a stablecoin with a high level of proof of reserves. Okay, so proof of reserves is that if the stablecoin says that they have, let's say, $1 billion, right? Like let's say DAI has $1 billion in reserves. Sorry, $1 billion in volume. They need to have $1 billion in reserves as well as a protection. That means that these funds here can be moved into here if it's needed as fast, just like that, whenever. If the stablecoin doesn't have many reserves, well, in a bear market where things are volatile, they don't have that pot of money to funnel into here in a worst case scenario to maintain the 1-to-1 pegging with the dollar. I hope that makes sense. Put a 10 in the chat if that makes sense. Put a 10 if that makes sense. Put a 5 if you need me to break it down. Put a 10 if that makes sense. Cool. So it's really important. And so, let me go ahead and share my screen this side, right? Because I was talking so much and I forgot to share one of my screens. So where is it? Oh, CoinGecko. So for example, and just this is CoinGecko, guys, where you can like watch different crypto projects and understand the tokenomics and the utility behind it and things like that. If you go into categories here, it's going to show you, smart contracts, layer ones. That's your main big crypto tokens. World Liberty, that's basically the like Trump endorsed crypto projects. And here we go, USD stablecoin, or we can go stablecoin, doesn't matter. But let's just do USD. Let's have a look. So now we're looking at the major USD based stablecoins. What do we have? We have Tether. We have Circle. Circle is the company behind USDC. We have DAI. We have PayPal. So, and we have Ripple, RLUSD. And that's something which I wanted to touch on later on as well about Ripple. But all these different projects. Now you can see the market cap. You can see the size of them. Do you want to go in a stablecoin that has a small market cap? No. You don't want to be in a stablecoin which is like ranked 50 out of all of the stablecoins in market cap. Why? Because as I mentioned, liquidity, right? You want a stablecoin with a lot of volume that's being actively used. At the same time, you've got to be careful with the companies behind these projects because Circle is behind USDC, And Circle, there's a 10%, basically a 10% ownership with JP Morgan and Circle, the company, which effectively means they have partial ownership of USDC in a sense, right? So it's not fully decentralized. Tether, USDT. Well, Tether has supposedly has China ties. And there's been a lot of conversation about the security of Tether in terms of when money can be pulled out at any time. So Tether may not be the best one. USDC, I'm a fan of USDC, so I use USDC. And then the next one here is DAI. This is the one I actually wanted to speak about. Now, DAI is arguably the most decentralized stablecoin out there. We know what decentralized is, most of us. If you don't, it's simply where there's no central authority in the transaction. So you have more full ownership of your funds within that project, because the Federal Reserve isn't basically the intermediary middleman in the transaction. So I like DAI for the reason of decentralization. Another reason why I like DAI is that you don't have those companies like running it behind it. What this means is if there were to be any changes within DAI, a vote needs to take place. And that vote is taken place by the owners of the project. That means that people actually have a say before anything major happens within the project. And that's a good thing. Now, one of the negatives of DAI, just to be transparent, guys, is its market cap, okay? As you can see, it's pegged 1-to-1 with the dollar, and it's been pretty consistent over the years. But the market cap's been falling because it was up to about 10 billion, and now it's up to about less than 5 billion. So that's not the best sign. So the reason why I wanted to mention this is because we like to give the pros, but also the cons of projects. So, I'm not just going to give you guys like, if you have a sweet tooth, I'm not going to give you like the cake and the chocolate brownie. I'm going to give you like the basic boring, like, hey, like this is good, but this is also bad. And so that's one of the things about DAI. Now, when it comes to stablecoins, guys, and interest rates, we know that FOMC is coming up in December. We know that interest rates, there's a high probability of there being lowered. So right now we're at 4 to 4.25, I believe, basis points. And last time I checked on this website, you can go to like the CME tool. CME is basically like, it's based in Chicago. It's the main like exchange for this. It says that there's like a 65% chance that interest rates are going to get lowered by another 0.25 percentage points. So basically that is going to be 3.75 to 4. And so as we know, lower interest rates means cheaper to borrow, which means higher consumer spending, which means higher economic growth, which means good for America. And also lower interest rates means more spare capital for people to put into crypto, which means Bitcoin price going up, basically, all right? And if Bitcoin's going up, the other altcoins, most of them, if they have utility, they're also going up as well. So that's why I just wanted to like break that down. And let me just get up something here. There was something interesting I wanted to mention about this. Yeah, so basically, as stablecoins become more popular, it may open up the door for more money, basically, to then go into the market, especially with lower interest rates as well. So those are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Let me just double check my screen and make sure I've like been through most of it. Yeah, I think that's good. So I just wanted to break that down, guys. But at this point, I'm gonna pass it over to Gil, and we're gonna go back and forth, ask questions, and give some value. So, Gil, I'll pass it over to you, brother.
For sure, guys. Put a 5 in the chat if you guys learned something or really, really got some good understanding, to be honest, when it comes to news, what's happening, what's going on, keeping you up to date with things is very, very important. Now, what I'm gonna do is kind of go straight into more of like the charts, kind of a little bit more of what's happening in the markets as a whole. And as y'all know, and if you guys don't know, I highly recommend to have this noted down. CoinGecko is what we use to literally look at what's going on a bigger horizon, not just the charts, but also, when it comes to percentage up, percentage down, the cryptos, what things have happened. And this is a database that we use a lot. We're not affiliated to it. We just use it. A lot of people in the market use it. And this lets you see a couple of things, right? It lets you see kind of where crypto is when it comes to every single token, right? What is their last hour, 24 hours, 7 days, right? Now, one thing that we can see is we can see the biggest losers, you can say, in the last, 7 days are some of them here. But one key factor is this, and we always talk about this. When there's a certain crypto that has big utility that we've been looking at, and it's red, that is a good indicator of potential adding to your portfolio, right? Now, why? Because obviously we want to buy when the markets are lower, not higher. But then on the other side, we can find who are the biggest winners for the last 7 days. And as we can see, as y'all know, like put an ICP in the chat. If you guys been seeing ICP, literally has seen an 159% move, that literally seemed like it just happened from one day to another. Right behind them is actually Filecoin. It's kind of crazy because both of these are the ones that we've been talking about a good amount. Obviously, so has Max Otero and in the platform. Both of these are also given on our Zenrai app, and I'm going to kind of talk about some cryptos that are in the Zenrai app and kind of what we can look at. But going into really the chart, guys, I want to show y'all ICP here. Okay. Literally it's wild because ICP was actually called out on our Zenrai app around $3.50 around there and below. So literally this was the area that was called out on the app. So a lot of people, obviously, specifically here in Powerhouse, are very up. But my biggest thing is understanding, well, why did that happen, right? Like moves like this don't just happen. But another key thing is understanding that the volume that this came in is the most volume this has seen ever. And it's kind of wild to look at. And I have all this right here. I'm trying to delete it. But if you can see this, okay, let me just move this up. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, this is the volume that came in literally on this week, you can say, right? Because we're on the weekly, on this week. And it's interesting because even when this market did something like this, which is a way bigger move, or even this move right here, that volume wasn't the same. Now, a lot of things can happen because of that, but one thing that I was able to kind of look up and see is that ICP really had an update to its blockchain, right? What they call Internet Computer 2.0, Definity 2.0, and Caffeine. So what they really did, from a little bit of the research I was able to do, is they were able to bring something called Caffeine.ai that basically has AI create the apps and a lot of the ecosystem side of this project. Now, apparently, this is something that I've been waiting for a minute. So it's really just like an update to the technology that ICP already has. Now, again, probably the fact that, the market were down and something like this happened is something that's like a good straw with it. So that's kind of good news when it comes to ICP. It also shows that they're working, they're putting in work, they're advancing, they're adding things. So that is honestly a good sign. Now, for us as investors, we got to realize and understand, okay, how can we get ourselves ahead? Okay, now I don't know what you guys got in or where we're at, but if you're somebody that got in ICP down here, like literally this was your price, which a lot of people, like for example, were actually like DCAing like here, or some people maybe here, but mostly like here, right? So the price barely has gotten a break even. But if you're pricing, right, if you got it executed on the way down and you DCA'd on the way down, you got to start asking yourself, what are your goals? Okay. What are your goals with your portfolio? Do you have certain take profits? Now, within the app on Zenrai, Max Otero has $13 as TP1. Okay. My biggest thing is understanding that if you're somebody that's an ICP and you were heavily invested in an ICP and you saw a 3x, because that's what basically happened, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take something out of the table. I'm not saying all of it. I'm not even saying half of it. I'm not even saying a quarter of it. I'm just saying being able to take something out of the table so that you kind of feel that now you have some profit that has came from the market. Now, when we take profit, as we know, we want to take ICP to stablecoin. And John Luke was talking about stablecoins a little not too long ago, right? Stable coins is like USDC, DAI, Tether, right? The main one that we talk about, to be honest, is USDC. Okay, it's just being honest, is like the most backed one, obviously, because of JP Morgan, and they obviously have more control of it, but at the same time, it also means it has more backing, meaning more sustainability, right? So USDC is one of the ones that we mostly use. You don't have to use it, but that's what you would do, right? You would take a certain percentage of your ICP gains. It can be a 10%, 5%. It can be your initial that you put in to then go into stablecoin. And what happens? Well, one thing that I've seen in this market, fam, is that when things like this happen, the market also shows another retracement entry before going. Because you got to keep in mind, ICP moved before the market moved, right? ICP moved solo. ICP moved by itself. So this is something that is honestly a good thing because it shows like its momentum and what it's doing, but it also shows that there's going to be even more potential opportunity because the market hasn't even gone crazy yet when it comes to altcoins. Okay, so I want to let y'all know that I personally will like to see maybe a re-entry. And I don't want it to be too steep, to be honest, but really the re-entry anywhere below like $6.50. And if you're up right now, you don't have to take profit if you don't want to, but I would highly recommend to start looking into saying, okay, can I take something off the table? So I'm a little bit more disattached and I've seen the upside. And if the market comes back, guess what happens? You have more liquidity. You have more funds to buy ICP again to then see maybe the upside to the first TP that we see with on the Zinrat. Now, put a 1 in the chat. This makes sense. I wanted to talk about that because a lot of people don't talk about profits. They just look at their portfolio like, oh, we're up, but they don't really talk about like when to take profit and to be smart with your take profits on the way up, because that's another thing too. You want to take profit on the way up. So when the market continues to grow, you want to start to take small profits on the way up because remember, you're in this market to keep your profits. You're in this market to see upside. You're not in this market just to see a number go up and down. And remember, the more money you have in something, I think the more strict you got to be with your take profits. If you have a low amount of funds, like let's say you put $50 and you're like 150, 200 up, and you're like, oh, okay, I don't really need them. Yeah, you don't really have to. But if you put like 500, 1,000, and you're up like 3, 4, 5K, like, all right, you taking 1,000, 1,500 to put on the side is not a bad idea. And to even help you to get into other assets that maybe haven't moved yet. For example, like Ondo or like, Chainlink, right? Because these haven't seen a jump when ICP has seen a jump. So I'm not saying this can't go higher now. It can for sure do something like this, but it just depends on what the market shows. If people start to take profit, the market can come lower, but that's a good sign as well because this market is now, in my opinion, officially trending up. It has broken structure. So that is a very good sign. And honestly, I would want it to stick up here for a minute. I would actually want it to last here before it comes down to then see a potential entry on the upside. Thank you for, 100%, 100%. I don't know if John Luke, bro, you want to add anything to that? But that's kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, ICP is something which I hold. I think a lot of people in the community hold ICP. We made that joke where if ICP, went to zero, then it would be a bit of a struggle. But yeah, Definity, which you saw earlier, on that article, it's the foundation that's behind ICP because ICP started out as a foundation, guys, which is basically a charity focused incentive, which is quite interesting. And yeah, you guys know it's an AI focused project, which we love. It's a layer one. And so it's something which has been spoken about for quite a while now on the platform. So it's good to see the rise that it's done. I wanted to touch on a little bit of the Bitcoin breakdown, but are you going to go into that shortly, right? Or what do you think?
Like where Bitcoin is at?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, we can go into that. We can go into that. If you want to start, you can start.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just share my screen real quickly, actually. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, screen are we on?
And Blanca, you have a question? What's your question?
Um, He'll remember you talked to us, you and Jean-Luc has talked to us about a place on where we can buy an Ethereum and then from there we can do stocking or something. But it has to be like at least one Ethereum, not part of it. But I don't remember.
Oh, I think you're mentioning about Rocket Pool. I
I
think that's
think
the
so.
project.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it? I completely forgot. I mean, not the main part, right?
So are you mentioning about where you can have one Ethereum
One Ethereum and then you
minimum?
can lend that money and you get paid.
Oh, yeah. That's either Rocket Pool
I
or
I don't remember the name of it. Do you remember, Gail? I remember you were the one talking about it.
Yeah, so yeah, there is a lot. There's a couple of places you can do staking. ETH. I mean, Rocket Pool is a place, and I'll share my screen real quick.
There was one that was especially just Ethereum and another one. I think Solana and Ethereum. But
Oh,
in order for you to do that, it has to be at least one full Ethereum that you need to have in there to start like lending that money. It was more like lending.
yeah, not staking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah,
okay, so you're talking about Aave.
Ah, yes, that one. Can you just remind me real quick? And probably the girls that weren't here might be also interested in something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, when it comes to Aave, and things like that, it comes down to more of lending and borrowing. To be honest, when it comes to Ethereum, it's not even worth it in my opinion. Just because of the fact that they're not paying out crazy amounts. So let me share my screen real quick here before we go into that. And that's a good question. Here, so Aave is a platform that you can lend crypto and get paid for it, but you can also get like loans and stuff like that. And I know we had a segment on that as well. So one of the biggest things is understanding that here you can do something called lending. So for example, if you were to supply, Ethereum, they actually pay you 1.88 APY. What does that mean? That means your Ethereum is actually in this protocol and you're lending them so that they can use it to basically like loan people out. It's like basically putting your money in the bank and like putting it like in a CD. Now, the reason why I say it's not that worth it because 1.88%, in my opinion, is not worth the it having my funds in something else that's not like in my possession. So
There was one that was paying more. Probably then it wasn't that, or the interest rate was different before than what it is now. But it was
yeah.
something about, I don't know if it was just a staking, a stacking or staking for 60%.
How much?
16. You said something about 16%.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Ethereum. I don't
Okay.
remember. Maybe if you find it, you can let me know. But I don't think
Okay.
I've ever
I
seen
will check on
Ethereum.
that and put it in the group and maybe we can talk about that next
Okay,
call.
for
Thanks.
sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen 16% for Ethereum. Even on here, I think the highest here is 2.41, which is this is Rocket Pool for Ethereum. This is probably the highest I've seen. Ethereum doesn't pay out a lot, to be honest, when it comes to APYs. It's more like Solana pays out even more on like other things like Kraken or stuff like that. But yeah. But if you find it, just let us know because I don't remember that, but might be wrong.
yeah. One of the so there's staking and then there's liquidity providing. So Blanca, one of the things that I did in 2022 was became an LP, a liquidity provider, and that was for a project called Atari, which Atari we know is like before Nintendo Wii, before PlayStation. Atari was the console, but Atari had their own project, and so what I did is put up. Let's say the amount. Let's say one Ethereum was worth $2,000. Well, I would have the equivalent of $2,000 in Atari, and every trading transaction between Ethereum and Atari, Atari and Ethereum, I would then get Atari tokens for those transactions. So when traders would buy and sell, I would get something from that liquidity pool because I'm contributing to the pool of funds for that. So liquidity providing is it's not complex, but it's gotta be worth your time and the risk to get a good percentage from it. Because if you're in a liquidity pool that has low liquidity, then the volume's going to be low. You're not going to get much fees. But if there's a lot of transactions within it, then you could get higher fees, such as 5% plus. But doing it for like 1-2%, it doesn't really make sense. But that's just something that I did do, which you may be like alluding to with the question. But yeah,
Thank you. Thank you,
Alan's right
guys.
also with Jupiter lending as well. So yeah. So what I wanted to mention when I transferred Sol and ETH to my Ledger Nano X, gave me the option to stake it. What are the pros and cons? Okay, cool. Yeah, good question. So we may as well touch on that. So staking, pros and cons. There's a few. So number one, the pro is that you're gonna get a good IR interest rate on the funds that you're choosing to stake. So Kusama, for example, is a project that I own. Kusama is a layer 2 on the Polkadot blockchain, and I stake it through Kraken, a centralized exchange. I get around 12 to 15% APY. So if you have $1,000 in Kusama, at the end of the year, you're getting 1,150 on top of the actual project going up in value anyway, right? So if Kusama doubles in 2026, my 1,000 turns to 2,000, but wait, I get 50% every year on top of that. So it goes from 1,000 to 2,000 plus an extra 15%. So that's the benefit of staking, is in a bull or a bear market. Even if price goes down, I'm still getting 15% more tokens, even just with it depreciating in value. So staking could be good for that. A con of staking is a lock-up period. So some staking projects have lock-up periods where if I want to move my Kusama from Kraken, the exchange, move it, meaning if I want to sell it or transfer it to another project or whatever it is, I have to wait 30 days to move those funds. So those funds are not liquid. It's not immediate. I start staking today. Tomorrow I decide I don't want to stake anymore and move it. No. If tomorrow I want to unstake it, I have to wait 30 days. Then it's unstaked. Then I can sell it, move it around, transfer it, blah, blah, blah. So the lockup period is a con. Another con of staking is that if the market's really volatile and you want to move your funds quickly, well, if the liquidity isn't there, sometimes you can't. What's another pro of staking, in my opinion, is that if you're somebody who goes off emotion quite a lot, staking it is like a good way to mentally, it's you're less likely to make an emotional decision because it's staked. So it's more like tucked away somewhere, if that makes sense. All right. If your funds are like easily movable, you can go against your plan and just like move it. We've all been there, right? Like where we felt an emotional thing and you want to do something, but with staking, you can't. So think about what platform you're staking on as well. Because if the platforms go down, so does your staking, So I staked a project called Vespa once. Like this was a long time ago. Wouldn't recommend it. But the percentages were so high, guys. It was like 300, 200% APY. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? I get to double, triple my money. Here's the tip. If the staking percent is too high, that project is unsustainable, guys, because the project does not have the funds to give you 200, 300% of tokens on top of the tokens. Because in a bear market, they may be struggling for funds and now the project's done for. But you got excited by the high percentages on the project. So you want it to be reasonable. I hope that helps. Put a 10 in the chat if that helps.
Yeah, and then just real quick, I'll show a quick example because I'm actually staking Jupiter on right now for like voting rights. Just something that I did to kind of see how everything is. But it's just like a cool thing about crypto too, is like that's why it's so like useful when it's used for the right reasons. But for example, literally right here, I've staked Jupiter. So if I want to unstake Jupiter, which I actually am going to unstake Jupiter because I want to put it somewhere else that I just saw, it's gonna take me 30 days. So like Jungkook was saying, when I unstake this, I won't be able to do anything for the next 30 days and I'll get it, in the next 30 days. So like I said, like Jungkook was saying, it's important to understand like the position the market is in, what you want to do with your funds and like if you're holding long term or short term, and if it's even worth your time and effort. Because like for example, I'm actually going to be starting to go here and I'm going to be moving this from what I saw, this is kind of like a good let's see. I saw it over here. Basically, I saw that they were paying 20% to stake or to provide actually your money in here for Jupiter. So that's something that I literally was just on it. But that was something that I saw, and I'm like, hey, like that honestly might be something that might be worth my time and effort better. So that's something that you want to kind of keep in mind. It's like where you're putting in it, if it's worth it, if it's not, if you're gonna hold long term and stuff like that. But I just wanted to show a good example for y'all as well. But yeah, that was it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really useful. And also, we spoke about this on other calls, but a picture paints a thousand words, right? So on CoinGecko, where you can see the tokenomics, which is the numbers behind the project, total value locked, TVL. This is exactly what we're speaking about right now. Total value locked is basically what's staked, as well as some other small things that are locked within a project. And so if you look at the max, let's go to so if you look at the total supply, let's use that metric. The total supply of tokens is 6.9. What's that? 6.9. Yeah, 6.9 billion. 6.9 billion. And the total value locked is 4 billion. What does that mean? That means that there's, let's just say it was 7 billion supply. That means that 3 billion tokens, which is right, 3.2, are in circulating supply moving around. But 4 billion are locked up. So guys, you tell me, because so many of the tokens are locked up, if we're in a bear market or if a black swan event happened, right, like an unanticipated, unpredictable event that just sent the market down, like big market sell-off, this project would be okay. This project isn't going to go to zero. Why? Because 4 billion tokens are locked up already. That's around about from 7 billion to 4 billion. That's like 60%, like 60% of the project is locked away. So only the 40% is really volatile and can move. Because if this 4 billion wants to move, guys, that's everybody taking 30 days of unstaking. So like, it's going to be hard to do so. So that's why, staking could be a good thing for projects from a tokenomic standpoint. And also, just look at this, guys. There's 3 billion tokens left to come out into circulation because 10 billion minus 7 is free. So that means that what are we getting with Jupiter? More and more airdrops, more and more airdrops of tokens over the next few years. And I believe they have that in their roadmap. Every few quarters, they give out more tokens to people who use Jupiter on a regular basis. The more you use it, the more airdrop you get. Super simple. So yeah, that's a good question on staking. I just wanted to mention something on Bitcoin real quickly, guys. So this is a big deal, actually, and it's funny enough, it was actually a hedge fund guy who I spoke with on the phone, who mentioned this to me, and I was like, damn, like I didn't know he was into equities like this. But basically, this is the EMAs, exponential moving average. So this one, blue one, is 200. The light blue
You're not
one,
sharing your screen. Oh, never mind. I see it.
you can see it.
You're good.
Okay,
You're good.
cool.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
light blue is 100, and the orange is 50, and the red is 20. So all these indicators mean, for those, most of us are traders here, guys, different styles of traders, types of traders. But some traders use indicators, and the EMA is the average of Bitcoin price based upon this, and it's based upon the last 20 days or 50 days. Now look at this. I'm on a 1 week time frame, right? Right now, price, and this is a big deal, price is literally rejecting off the 50 EMA. The last time Bitcoin went below the 50 EMA, guys, was in 2023. That's wild. Basically Q1 2023 was the last time we was below the 50 EMA. So that's quite a big, strong indicator of like potentially where we're heading. And we're just rejecting off it. So we don't know if we're going to break it yet. But we're going to find out and see. I just thought that was really interesting because, the bigger the EMA, like the closer to 100, 200 days you get, the stronger the confirmation it is. So keep that in mind. The bigger the EMA, the bigger the duration of time, the stronger that confirmation is for the market. So yeah, something to keep eyes on anyway.
Yeah, facts. No, and Max Turtle talked about that as well on one of his sessions. So right now we're at a critical time where it's either going to reject, or If it doesn't reject and it goes lower, it might go lower. So it's just understanding that, keeping yourself equipped. And that's why we say DCAing is important, right? Like not putting all your funds at once. And also taking profits on different projects depending on when they make movements, right? So last thing I wanted to give you guys before we hop off this session is I did want to kind of give you guys you guys didn't see this, but put a one in the chat if you've seen the Zenrai app. And if you've seen the call outs that they've done on the exchange side. Now, I want to let y'all know that on the app, it's not like too crazy categorized yet. They're updating it. There's exchange idea and there's a leverage idea on the crypto side. When it's leverage idea, that means trading only. And when it's exchange idea, that is for your portfolio. Okay. So for example, AVAX, well, I'll start from the top. Chainlink was sent, this was almost like a month ago, because this was like different timing when I sent it in. But this was the entry idea. Now, one thing I want to let y'all know is that as long as we stay in these zones, this is a valid idea. And as you guys can see, and I'll kind of show this real quick, Chainlink right now is at $15.35. And this was called out from 17 to 15. So understanding that is important and seeing like, okay, where am I at now compared to what was given to us, obviously within the Zenrai ideas and stuff. And as we can see, we are still at entry. Like put a 2 in the chat, you can see that. We are still at entry. Like the entry that they gave us was 17 actually to 15. So really anything below that as well. So like really anything here is what we're looking at for portfolio DCA zone. So that's a really easy way to navigate through that and understand that, right? So if we go look at the other ones that we have on here real quick, is we have Chainlink, okay? Send the chart in here. This is in the Crypto Powerhouse channel, so y'all see. This is Ondo as well. We can ask ourselves, are we in the area? We're like right at 65 cents. So we're still in the area, right? Now we have projects like AVAX as well, that right now it's at $17. So it is in the area of potential entry. We also have ideas like Uniswap that literally is called out at $5.39 and $3. Right now, we're above entry. So this wouldn't be a project that we would DCA in right now, according to what we're giving, compared to the other projects as well. And then we even have Sui right here, which Sui, if I believe so, it's a little bit above this pricing, but under $1.92 is also a great one. For example, ICP already moved. So for the ones that are not an ICP, people ask me like, hey, Gil, should I buy ICP? And realistically, no, right? Why? Because that market already moved. Is it going to be reentries? Maybe we might see something, but there's still other projects that haven't seen that type of movement. So my best piece of advice is for every single one of us to be very plugged in, not only to the live sessions, but also to the Zenrai Ideas app, because now we have Mambo and another educator that are giving out setups for our portfolio, literally on a week-to-week basis that I see. But just know there's other great opportunities right now that haven't seen that crazy move that we would just have, right? Crypto moves very, like this. This is the definition of crypto. So we don't know the timing of things. And that's why getting in position slowly but surely is going to help you see the upsides like this, but also be in position before most people are. And the last thing I'll say this, and I don't know if John wants to add something at the end, is the fact that we had pump like this on an altcoin and Filecoin. This for me is actually very bullish. I've seen this before. I remember in the life cycle, we had random pumps of tokens and things started to happen. So I'm not saying it's going to be bullish tomorrow, but I 100% agree with what John was saying. 2026, I see a lot of upside, but the ones that get in position this holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, like this is the holiday season, I think, that's going to get people in position so that the next holiday season, the ones that were in position already have seen the upside of it. So just make sure to stay plugged in this last 2 months of the year. Obviously, we continue to have calls like this. Be plugged into everything that we have within Zenrai and the app and the sessions and the Crypto Powerhouse channels, and make sure to ask questions. And the more we have more things happening in the market, me and Jean-Luc will start to formulate some things as well. Because I know, for example, staking was new to y'all. So we might add some more things that we know from the last run that wasn't a good time to do at the time, but maybe it's getting into that timing. to maximize in the market. So other than that, John Luke, I don't know if you have anything to add, but that's it for me.
All good, brother.
Sounds good. Well, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys' time. You know, I'm definitely grateful for having y'all on this session, and feel free to share something in the Telegram channel or chat, something that you learned. You know, go into the Powerhouse chat, let people know what you learned on today's session. And we have a lot of exciting things happening, and we will continue to funnel here and help you guys learn and maximize, but at the same time, use the resources that we have, which is very, very important. All right, fam. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.